African Export-Import Bank, in partnership with the Government of Grenada, hosts the 4th edition of the Afri-Caribbean Trade and Investment Forum in St. George's. Now, the bank's flagship initiative is building on the momentum of the previous 3 forums, promoting trade and investment opportunities between both regions. Hello there and welcome to this Focus on Active 2025, a platform rewriting the future of Afri-Caribbean economic relations grounded in solidarity, shared values, and a common vision of prosperity. I'm David Alabi. This year's forum reaffirms a joint commitment to the advancement of a self-reliant global Africa and reflects on declarations from previous active forums. These culminate into the need to build resilience amid an increasingly fragile and uncertain global landscape. CARICOM leaders also acknowledged the role of Professor Rama in spearheading this call with a recommendation of the region's highest honor.
Global Africa means Africa and its diaspora everywhere it is. So I want to start by recognizing and paying homage to the bridge builder, by paying tribute to a man whose vision has helped make this gathering and the deeper movement it represents possible, President Benedict Orama. I know many of the other CARICOM leaders will concur in recommending to the CARICOM Secretariat that the CARICOM region confers upon you its highest award, the Order of the Caribbean Community. And I look forward and therefore, with the concurrence of the incoming chairman, the Honorable Dr. Terence Drew from the Federation of St. Kitts and Nevis, I look forward to him conferring this order anew at the next sitting of the Caribbean community in St. Kitts and Nevis.
I want to congratulate AfriCaribbean Bank for the $3 billion credit line that the bank has extended to the Caribbean region, which positions our two regions to achieve our ambitions and to advance on our relationship. We are now well poised as a result of this intervention, well poised to advance relationships beyond expressions of emotional and historical and cultural ties that formed over centuries, to commercially meaningful economic and trade ties between Africa and the Caribbean that have historically remained very, very low.
The establishment of an African-Caribbean free trade area should be our ultimate objective. It is not merely aspirational. It is a strategic inherent imperative, especially now. It has the potential to significantly boost trade and investment flows, reduce trade barriers, and enhance competitiveness on the global stage.
CARICOM is committed to deepening its collaboration with AfriCaribbean Bank in key areas of common interest. To ensure consistent and collaborative outcomes, steps are being taken to conclude a memorandum of understanding between CARICOM and AfriCaribbean Bank so that together we can drive the partnership in particular areas such as trade, logistics, and connectivity.
The president of AfriCaribbean Bank, Professor Benedict Orama, recounts the progress recorded in the last 3 years, highlighting a recent win. Jamaica acceding to the establishment agreement of AfriCaribbean Bank, among other financing initiatives in the CARICOM region.
Here in Grenada, we are co-financing a world-class tertiary hospital, estimated at the cost of about $250 million. Which we hope will convert the country into a regional hub for medical tourism. Also in Grenada, We are also financing investments by Orascom Group in the luxury tourism, directly boosting Africa-Caribbean investments while supporting improvements in tourism infrastructure in the country. In St. Lucia, we are helping to rebuild schools destroyed by climate events, thereby easing learning conditions for young school children. In the Commonwealth of the Bahamas, we are enabling SME development, road infrastructure, and a permanent exhibition center through multiple transactions amounting to about $500 million in aggregate. In St. Kitts and Nevis, we've unlocked trade finance support through local banks. In Suriname, AfriCaribbean is the coordinator and the mandated lead arranger of the $1.7 billion facility for the state oil company Start Soli, which will be used to acquire 20% interest in the Grand Mogul offshore oil field being operated by Total SA. AfriCaribbean is contributing an amount of $500 million in the deal and expects to be an oil lifter through its trading subsidiary called Admin. We are also working with our shareholders, Caribbean Development Fund, to launch a groundbreaking initiative called the Growth, Resilience and Sustainability Fund. The fund aims to mobilize alternative financial resources and leverage public access to finance large-scale adaptation projects in the CARICOM.
Looking ahead, Professor Orama lists more initiatives in the works, from the establishment of a Caribbean Exim Bank to calls for the creation of a Global Africa Commission fully responsible for delivering on the Afri-Caribbean and the broader Global Africa initiatives.
Such a commission should be sovereign, but still supported by AfriCaribbean, especially in the early stages. It must also be supported by the CARICOM and the African Union. This move will give more focus and impetus to the initiative, reduce the administrative burden on AfriCaribbean, and create an environment for innovation.
We will keep to the plans in full, and it's not the practice of AfriCaribbean. It's not our tradition in the AfriCaribbean to commit patricide. So we still have all of them here. Mr. Dodo is still there, and Dr. Rama. If you feel that we are breaking the rules, we are not keeping to those programs we've set, give Professor Orama a call, and everything will be in order.
An anchor point is a presidential panel focusing on how stronger Africa-Caribbean trade, investment and cultural relations can provide a counterbalance and exposure to ongoing geopolitical turbulence. Case scenarios from energy export to visa issuances form the crux of deliberations.
We, for example, have visa-free access. Nigerians have visa-free access to St. Kitts and Nevis because we have been welcoming, yes? We have been welcoming medical students for a long time, diving students and so forth. But for us to go to Nigeria, we need a visa. And again, I think that that is something to be looked at. We're in the process of discussing that with the high officials in Nigeria, but that is a real issue in terms of the communication.
The President of Nigeria is going to come up with a very good visa policy to create visa on arrivals, because really I know it's been very difficult getting Nigeria's visa, but I think that issue will be sorted out very soon. I think in this quarter we will be hearing from the President how people can just get visas on arrival. I think that will open up. But my own dream is to see that how we actually, free up Africa in cement, in petroleum products, in urea, fertilizer. We will do the same to the Caribbean.
If I may, 5 years ago, Barbados removed visas from all countries in Africa with the exception of 5. And those 5 were just on the basis of security reasons. So I think that this is something that ought to be taken up at the CARICOM AU meeting in a month's time. And it is in fact the prerequisite for us to be able to have a linkage between the CARICOM single market and economy and the Africa Free Trade Area.
Have you discussed amongst yourself the possibility of checking your collective demand and organizing to be a major buyer, to pay exactly what everybody pays? You're not asking for peanuts, but it's crude oil. You take it, you organize with Dangote Refinery to do toll refining. So he does toll refining, so you carry crude, so you have a tanker go, a tanker come back. Won't it reduce your petroleum prices dramatically and open other opportunities for you? Guyana is not going to lose anything because that trading company that will do it for you will pay exactly what everybody pays. But they help to bring stability in economies here and begin to open the trade links between Africa and the Caribbean.
One interesting announcement from the presidential panel was the plan to establish the Dangote Orama Center of Excellence in Grenada.
I couldn't think of two more fitting global Africans to have a center of excellence named after in Grenada and behalf of CARICOM. And President Orama has a little joke. Both President Orama and Aliko were in Grenada for independence last year.
This year.
This year, sorry. The time hasn't gone as fast as I thought. And the reporter asked an interesting question, which was, what is in it for these two men? Why were they coming to Grenada? Almost implying that the Caribbean is too small, it doesn't have scale, and therefore there was no utility in coming here. I wouldn't say to you what President Orama said to her, other than he gave an appropriate response. And I think it is part of recognizing, as I've said before, that, and as he said, the people who have entrapped us are not going to free us. The people who continue to encourage an extractive economy is not going to encourage an economy based on industrialization, based on manufacturing, based on processing. And so even if Guyana may have committed to multinationals that may make it difficult for us to be able to process their crude so that not just CARICOM, but Guyana itself, because Guyana is not processing any crude. It is still an extractive model. It is important, I think, for us to realize that the centers of excellence is not just about the subject matter that will be taught, but breaking the mental shackles that Bob Marley so eloquently sang about.
As usual, the deal room activities were a major spotlight, with a total of 8 deals worth over $300 million and memoranda announced over the course of the forum, spanning infrastructure, tourism, digital transformation and trade finance. St. Kitts and Nevis is one of the beneficiaries, with about 3 deals in its favor.
So it's a $40 million deal for the port infrastructure in St. Kitts and Nevis. That is part of a larger scheme, which is a special economic zone that would have manufacturing, processing, and be a hub for agricultural produce from the Caribbean and Africa to ensure that we can trade agricultural produce between the regions.
So one of the things that we signed is one that deals with social infrastructure, roads, highways, schools that can really enhance the lives of our people. And this would have a tremendous impact in terms of, elevating our standard of living and making sure that we have the necessary infrastructure that will make us more, I would say, attractive for foreign direct investment. The other one that we looked at was another area where we can develop a port so that we can have an area where we can have more connection between both regions. Because, of course, if you're going to be moving goods, you need a place where, ships can dock and so forth. So that is to help with respect to that. And then we are looking at the other one where we want to develop our agricultural sector through a fishing, agreement that is supposed to be done today. So in the area of trade through ports, in the area of social development, and in business through what we are seeking to do, with helping to strengthen our food security.
Turning history around for a prosperous relationship features three preeminent leaders discussing how best to leverage historic, cultural and ancestral Afri-Caribbean linkages.
One major purpose of history is that it's like memory. If you lose your memory, you won't even remember what you ate yesterday. So history is like memory, and you must keep it. And what does it do when you keep history? It reminds you of what happened in the past, what mistakes, what achievements, what missteps, and these are necessary for the present and for the future.
We saw in COVID what would happen if we are not producing our own technology. The pharmaceutical companies were making enough vaccines to give to their population 3 times over. The Caribbean was forgotten. When we got our first vaccines, it was because of the action taken by AfriCaribbean that insisted that a portion had to be devoted to the Caribbean, and they were prepared to give their guarantee to ensure that. So, I think the time for talk is over. The time for action is now.
More deliberations unpack further strategies to advance opportunities for strengthening Afri-Caribbean value chains.
We see an opportunity in the Caribbean for us to further diversify and strengthen, fortify our economic arrangements. At the level of the central banks, we are engaged with AfriCaribbean on its Pan-African payment and settlement system. Essentially, we are now committed to creating the CARICOM payment and settlement system, CAPS. So PAPS to CAPS, where we will be able to create a modality to allow trade, first within CARICOM, and then between CARICOM and Africa.
We have trade intelligence and trade regulations platform, which allows you, if you want to do trade across borders, you know the information on what each country has, and you also know information on all the trade regulation in each country. You also then have to leverage on the Africa Trade Exchange, which can also be copied and brought in here, modified to suit the need, to ensure that goods and services like the fertilizer, the petroleum products Dangote was talking about, cement, can be listed so that buyers can go there and source. And AfriCaribbean and the financial institutions will go there to provide the financing. Then we have the Collaborative Transit Guarantee Scheme that allows one instrument to be issued so that goods can be moved from Cape Town to Cairo or from Dakar to Dar es Salaam and move goods across. That way, intra-African trade happens, which is very low today at about 17-18%, according to the AFCFTA Secretariat. That's the same thing that is happening in the CARICOM region. So if these successes are transferred, you realize that we will leverage Mansa KYC platform, we will leverage PAPS, we will leverage CAPS, we will leverage Transit Collaborative Guarantee Scheme, we will leverage Africa Trade Exchange or Afri-Caribbean Trade Exchange, whatever name we want to give it. We will leverage all the other platforms, and we'll be able to see how we can support financing.
The second day opens with further recognition of Professor Rama with a symbolic tree planting ceremony held in Kamahogany Park in St. George's in honor of his visionary leadership, reaffirming his legacy as a foundational force in building global Africa.
And today, as I joined the Honorable Prime Minister in planting this tree, I am that have now found a very deep anchor in Grenada and the CARICOM.
A tour of exhibition booths showcases the offerings from small and medium-sized enterprises making big impact in various sectors.
And I think that moving forward, we have to be very cognizant of the fact that we need to be able to be building a global business, and we're building global businesses or a structured business. It requires teamwork and it requires certain line of structure that will enable us to access all the funds that we need.
We would have created a stock market game platform which has amassed 14,000 children across Jamaica, Guyana, Barbados, Trinidad and Tobago, and very soon Turks and Caicos. And what this game does is gives each student $25,000 virtual money. And they get to use this money to buy stocks listed on the Mexican Stock Exchange, the American Stock Exchange, the NASDAQ, the Trinidad and Tobago Stock Exchange, the Jamaica Stock Exchange, building portfolios and learning about generational wealth creation. They use this money to save, budget, and invest while competing with their peers, all harnessing the power of artificial intelligence.
Other deliberations build on the need for frameworks to ease growth prospects in both regions, while the focus narrows into opportunities for Grenada.
So there are some key sectors for us from tourism, where AfriCaribbean Bank has already been lending funds to private sector entrepreneurs to continue the expansion and development work in the tourism sector here in Grenada. In fact, many of the hotel properties that you are staying at are in fact being developed by global Africans. That is something we are proud of. We also have an investment migration industry that in large part is fueled by Africans. In fact, the Nigerian segment represents the largest sector of that area. We have also signed MOUs with Premier Invest, which is looking at aquaculture. So that's an area we are quite keen to focus on. Our marine sector, our marine size is 77 times that of our land size. So the marine sector is a sector that we think is a quiet sleeping giant that we need to explore, from yachting to cruise ship to expanding our fisheries capacity, fish processing. So those are some of the sectors we are looking to target as well. Healthcare, we've got a significant partner in St. George's University here, which has trained over 800 African doctors. In fact, they are a major supplier of doctors to Botswana. The current Minister for Health from Botswana was educated here. So it really does show the reach that I think Grenada has in the context of global Africa. So we were obviously quite delighted to host the conference.
A closing ceremony offers the last set of discussions on near-term goals and what it means to institutionalize the concept of a Global Africa Commission and outcomes from Active 2025 to advance South-South collaboration.
We need to take the foundation we've built up so that we have a complete building. That requires that we have a sovereign institution that can take this forward, so that AfriCaribbean Bank remains managing, driving it from a financial point of view and also from a historical point of view, but doing so with the support of others in a way that crowds in these similar institutions, our government and others, so that we push towards the same purpose.
I do not see any valid reasons for maintaining the visa system. That's one. Two, even if we try to maintain it, the fact is the technology is moving in the direction of biometrics, which means electronic travel authorization, certainly for security reasons, and I think it allows all of us the opportunity to actually invest already in the future, which is now, and move to a process where you either have visa on arrival if you still need one, or electronic travel authorization. There are countries which have done it. I think Rwanda, for example, in Africa. I don't know that it has had any negative consequences for them. I suspect quite the contrary. It has certainly helped to improve their economic chances. So I think that's one key thing that we need to send the message, that we are not here to prevent our people from moving.
The next phase of Active to Be is, to me, simply a question of more conviction, believing further in who we are, where we want to be, not always seeking to justify why we should be doing it. No one should justify why he has to get closer to his own. So those next steps mean we take certain steps to enhance the integration. That ought to come naturally. And in that integration process, one of those areas which we think we should reinforce is the payment system that we now have.
St. Kitts and Nevis gets set to host the Afri-Caribbean Trade and Investment Forum 2026 with increased drive for stronger partnerships, identification of new market opportunities, as well as critical trade and market information exchanges between Africa and the Caribbean. Well, this brings us to the end of this focus on this year's Afri-Caribbean Trade and Investment Forum in St. George's, Grenada. Many thanks for watching. I'm David Alabi.